What happened? What happened to the NCO Corps about the very fact that the NCOs are just not stepping up? They're just not stepping up. In fact, I remember whenever I went to WACS, which is the Warrant Officer Candidate School, one of our TAC officers said, the reason why you came to this place is because you see it already. The backbone has scoliosis. And the NCO Corps is the backbone of the Army.
Whoa, man, you're way too close!
I'm gonna make you sober up. So we take them outside, I dust them. Boy, they ran so many laps, it was crazy. I absolutely destroyed them. And then I send them back to their barracks rooms to lick their wounds. And I call their first sergeant, they don't pick up. I call their senior drill sergeant, he doesn't pick up. So then I call their platoon sergeant, who was...
The U.S. Army is having a huge cultural issue that I think is not being discussed. But apparently the back in my day type folks that are in higher ranks are saying the new generation is just not as good. That comes from a warrant officer that has gone to TikTok and said, they're not the same. They're not like me.
They not like us. They not like us.
So here's a little thought that might stir up some of the NCO Corps. And I can say this because I was once in the NCO Corps. What happened? What happened to the NCO Corps? One of my warrant officer buddies made a post on Facebook today about this, about the very fact that the NCOs are just not stepping up. They're just not stepping up. It's no disrespect to the NCO Corps, it's just the fact of the matter that is we have gotten more, complacent? I don't know. I'm not seeing NCOs stepping up like they used to. In fact, I remember whenever I went to WACS, which is the Warrant Officer Candidate School, one of our TAC officers said, the reason why you came to this place is because you see it already. The backbone has scoliosis. And the NCO Corps is the backbone of the Army. And that statement, not only did it make me chuckle, but it made me think. And I have seen this as a warrant now, looking at a different lens of the NCO Corps. The NCOs aren't taking initiative like they used to. They're not training soldiers like they used to. They're not enforcing standards like they used to. They're not trying to be excellent in their craft. And I'm not saying all, I'm saying a big majority that I have witnessed. This is my own perspective. Maybe in your unit, you're seeing something different, but so far I've seen this. I've seen the NCOs not step up the way they should. And I've seen a lot of officers and warrant officers have to step in and corral the troops and train the troops and enforce standards. And it shouldn't be us. We should be able to stay in our lane, so to speak. But I'm sorry, if I see something, I'm going to say something. All I have to say is we have to do better. We have to do better. What are your thoughts? Drop it down in the comments. Like and follow for more. S1 Strong.
You may be asking who this is, but he tells details in his bio. He says coffee, sarcasm, humor, and conversation from the Army Guard, I think is what it is, and says chief and doesn't rep DOD. Now, I'm going to read some comments, and I'm going to show you a video of exactly how this plays out, why he's not seeing that. But let's read the comments because they commented and they kind of rebutted back to him. This soldier says, I've seen that anytime an NCO imposes discipline or enforces standards, someone gets offended and they end up under investigation for counterproductive leadership. Now that they won't flag it until after investigation should help them a little. Danny said here, we're not allowed to discipline soldiers anymore. It's easier to get fired than it is to promote. And lastly, Samantha says, NCOs get burned for enforcing standards. Officers tend to be liberal college students. They push PC agendas and policies. This limits the scope of their NCO's authority. Officer reap the policy they sow. If officers took care of their backbone, they'd be able to stand up straight. No disrespect to leadership. Whoa, people are like, check, check, check. We are protecting our paychecks because we've seen equal opportunity, things that have gone on, where essentially they're like, it's not worth my career to fight this. I'm not losing my job over not correcting somebody, but I will lose my job if I do. So you have to create an incentive structure that is there. He says people are not wanting to be technical experts. And I'm like, okay, that is true. I could see that. But if you're being told you've got to run fast, do boards, or do something else that's not with your technical expertise, yeah, you have people that are like, the money is over there. I'm going to go run fast, right? Like that is my mentality where I'm like, if I'm proficient at my job, it is almost irrelevant to my thing. And that is a cultural thing across the military that I think is kind of having to shift or is already shifting. Remember that video I said that is going to represent exactly what those people in his comments were saying? This is a hard proof concept as anecdotal evidence of why a lot of NCOs are not willing to do this.
I'm going to tell y'all how your personal morals commonly conflicts with what the Army requires you to do. and how I almost got fired from the Drill Sergeant Academy for it. All right, so I'm pulling staff duty at the Drill Sergeant Academy, right? And the soldier walks in and goes, hey, I locked myself out of my barracks room. Will you help me out? Super, super common. I'm like, absolutely. I go to the barracks. I let the soldier in the room. And up on the 3rd floor, I hear nothing but absolute mayhem, just straight chaos. So I go upstairs, and I hear a whole bunch of music bumping and some crude comments going through this door throughout the hallway. I'm like, all right, too easy. I walk up to this door, and I just straight kick it. Bop, bop, bop. And all of a sudden I hear nothing but cans and bottles getting tossed. Immediately I knew they were drinking, which is a problem because there's a command policy straight up saying no alcohol on campus for the Drill Sergeant Academy. 2 soldiers open up the door, but I know for certain I heard more than 2 voices. So I'm like, hey, where are your dumbass friends at? So they come bleeding out of the bathroom, bleeding out of the back room. They try to hide. And all of a sudden I look over to the trash can. I see nothing but beer bottles and beer cans. So I'm like, all right, all of y'all fill up your camelback. Get your uniform, meet me at staff duty. About 5 minutes go by, and all these soldiers show up, about a dozen of them. And some are a little bit more inebriated than others. And I'm like, hey, somebody start explaining yourself. What the hell? One of them speaks up, and they're like, hey, we're the graduating class. We're supposed to be graduating on Wednesday. We just finished our culminating event, and we wanted to get together and celebrate as a team because we're all in the same platoon. So the Drill Sergeant Academy is based off the exact same way basic training is, right? There's 4 phases initially that you have to go through that's about 3 months long, and at the very end of it there's a big culminating event that you like basically to build team cohesion, make sure that you can do all the things you're going to ask soldiers to do while you're a drill sergeant. And then there's a big grog ceremony where they give you your drill sergeant badge and you earned all that. They've made it through all of that. So I get frustrated. I'm like, guys, you've already made it through all this stuff and you know that you broke the rules, and therefore you could easily either get kicked out of the academy in its entirety, wash back to day 0, and I know some of y'all have families and kids at home that you don't want to be away from for an additional 3 months. Why would y'all do that? They all are sympathetic, they're a little apologetic, all sorts of good stuff, because obviously they got caught, they're in trouble. So I'm like, all right, too easy. I'm going to make you sober up. So we take them outside, and I dust them. Boy, they ran so many laps, it was crazy. I absolutely destroyed them. And then I send them back to their barracks rooms to lick their wounds. And I call their first sergeant, they don't pick up. I call their senior drill sergeant, he doesn't pick up. So then I call their platoon sergeant, who was on leave at the time but still answered. I'm like, hey, I just want to let you know, I just caught all your soldiers doing this stuff. This is how I handled it. I hope that's good. She's like, yeah, we're straight. I'm like, all right, cool. So I hang up the phone. I go on about my business. I finish my duty. The day after, I get a call from the sergeant major, the commandant of the academy, which basically is the commander of the whole program. So he's like, hey, Baker, come see me in my office. I'm like, all right, too easy. So I show up. I go to parade rest on his thing. He slides a letter of concern across the desk. For those who don't know, a letter of concern is basically a really formal way of saying, like, hey, you're about to lose your job. And this is, like, as formal as it can get, to which I can remove you from your position. And at first, I'm salty. Big mad, right? Because I'm like, it's really not that big of a deal, right? Like, I'm not going to snitch on these people who's been away from their family for 3 months, who's going to have to recycle back to day 0, all because they were drinking of legal age in the barracks, celebrating the fact that they just graduated the Drill Sergeant Academy and drinking responsibly because they're all right there. They're not driving anywhere, right? So I was really annoyed. And then he starts to explain to me, he's like, look, you're jeopardizing your career and your kids and your welfare and your paycheck on the behalf of somebody else who broke the rules, who knew they were breaking the rules. And you took the command authority out of my hands because you didn't want to hold them responsible. He was spitting bars, right? So I'm like, damn. All right, I get it, right? So I realized that a lot of times who you are as a person and the things that you want to empathize with is different than having sympathy for somebody, right? And as to my core, right, I didn't want to snitch on him. I didn't really think it was that big of a deal. All sorts of good stuff. I took the power base away from him to be able to make an informed decision. And through due process, I still could have advocated for them on the back end where I wrote, character statements or, handled it a different way, at least logged it on the staff duty log or whatever else. There's a lot of things that I could have done differently to allow the commander to still make a decision, hold them accountable for the actions that they had, and still advocate for them. And that was a hard lesson that I had to learn, because now I'm at a point to where in my career, I hold people accountable to the black and white, and then I advocate for them when I feel that they deserve it, and I'm not putting my life and my career and my family and my kids at jeopardy, all because of a code that I had growing up. So anyways, I was always really thankful for the fact that the commandant held me accountable in that way. except for I do think that it really skewed his vision of me because I don't know, it kind of like hung over my head for quite a while. But regardless, that's the best lesson I ever learned in the Army.
I'm going to get to my thoughts, but the comments go off. Good old Sarge says, unfortunately, handle at the lowest level only works when those above you aren't micromanaging egomaniacs. DM Peter says, doctrinally, Command Sergeant Major is right. Ethically, I agreed with you the way you handled it. And then this person says, no disrespect to the Commandant, but I support your method. You are being an NCO and handling the issue at the lowest level. Doctrinally speaking, the Commandant isn't wrong, but I believe as an NCO, you did the right thing. He's like, I could have put in the duty log, whatever. And I'm like, I mean, you could have made it legally there because that is a legal document per se that could be used if they were going to go to court-martial or a non-judicial process, Article 15. But I'm also like, the Army, by the way, the Sergeant Major of the Army only a few years ago, I think it was the one like 2 ago or maybe 1 ago, had said, we need to allow people to actually take you out for a little PT and like that's their corrective action. He then also reported it to someone in the chain of command, which could have went up, right? He wasn't saying all's well that's there, like wake up the commander for everything at night that happens when some people are drunk. Like I would not want to be that commandant that's sitting there like, oh, I'm going to get a call every Friday or Saturday possibly. That would drive me nuts. And what's hard is you create a power vacuum and it's like, no, it's power's got to go up. Everybody up above has to know everything. Just push, 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 push. It's not teaching you to handle at your level. And essentially, I would say it teaches people to be rats. We know there's a culture of Blue Falcon or buddy effort that's out there that you're like, don't be that person. But at the same time, the Army is telling you to contradict that and do this. And then like, who are you holding any allegiance to? It's like, just burn everybody. And I don't think that is a good thing either. I think there is some gradient with this. So that is my reaction to this warrant officer that said, NCOs need to stick up and be the backbone. I appreciate that. However, we have too many anecdotal instances like this drill sergeant here that has said like, hey, I did that. I tried that. I got burnt. The end.